Hey guys, today I want to talk about The Division and my opinions on it, basically a review, because that is probably the most frequent question that I get whenever I stream the game, is should you buy it? So this is going to be my pros, cons, opinion, review, however you want to word it, this is going to be it, and then you can forge your own opinion on if you want to buy the game. Obviously, don't forge it off of my opinion alone, but this is supposed to be help you decide a little bit better from my opinions. So, the first thing I want to just note is I'm going to not talk about any bugginess or any of the mundane things in the game that will obviously be fixed. Most PC games these days are buggy. You just gotta accept it, they'll be fixed later on. So, I'm gonna leave all those out and I'm gonna focus on the core game and all of its concepts and how those will play, because those are what's going to go with the game forever. So, the first thing that I have, I'm gonna start with the cons and then I'll go into the pros after. So the first major thing that I have with the con is the story. The story is very ignorable at best. You can pay attention to the story. They do a very, very good job with explaining environmental stories. So with the whole echo system, you go around, you find little echoes on the ground, and it'll recreate the scene before it happened, and then obviously you see the scene after it happened before you even activate the echo. So that's a very, very cool idea. However, the story missions themselves, the actual missions that are supposed to represent the story mode of the game, are very ignorable, and they are all basically just wave-based dungeons. These are the dungeons of the game, and they made the story mode basically the dungeon. So everything's just wave after wave. There's very little dialogue. There's very little explanation on why you're doing what you're doing. They do give you intel pieces, which you can watch after you do the story, but that's the point, is that they made the story modes, the dungeons, so much that they took out all the story and they give it to you after the dungeon, and then, they do it through other means besides the actual story missions that are, represented as being story mode. So that is probably one of the bigger gripes that I have with the PvE content right now. That's just the leveling up process, but everybody does it, and you're going to have to do it after you level up, because those are, again, the dungeons in the game. So that's the story. Again, it's pretty ignorable. It's a very lackluster story. It's very generic, and the fact that they made the dungeons, the story missions, it made it so that way they're all wave-based. It wasn't like a cinematic experience or anything like that. It was just wave after wave. You go one room to one room, fight 2 waves at a time, 3 waves at a time, and then you move on to the next room, fight another wave, and then move on to the next room, fight another wave. It's very, very like that. But the next thing that I can pretty much go off of is the side missions and the encounters, which are basically the little missions in between the story modes, because you can't just do the story mode all the way up to 30, there's not enough missions, and basically there's very, very, very little variation between them all. There's 3 different wings. There's the medical, there's the tech, and there's the security. Now, each of those have like 2 to 3 variants each in terms of the encounters. So if you're doing the medical wing, you basically are every single medical encounter, which encounters are basically little side missions. Every single little side mission that you do for the medical wing is either going to be virus research, so you go around, you have a time limit to run around a building and find all the little laptops, or you're going to be rescuing hostages, or you're going to go underground and you are going to release vents from the valves. Those are the only 3 things that you do for the medical wing. And there are hundreds, or probably about 100 total encounters if you find all of them around the map. You got to do that, say 30 times each of those missions. So by the time you do it for once you get to the middle, level 10, you're already done with the side missions. You've already seen everything you're going to see for the next 20 levels. And you have to do them, because you have to do all of them to level up your wings and get upgrades, which give you talents and perks and upgrades to your skills. You have to do those over and over and over, and it's just it gets more and more pushy with them, and it's basically just repeats. They even have the same exact dialogue. It's literally a copy and paste. They have the same exact dialogue. It's the same exact mission, just a different location, which is a very, very big gripe, because you're going to have to do that for 10 to 15 hours before you hit level 30, and then if you didn't finish them all, you're gonna have to go back and do more until you unlock your wings. So that is another big gripe that I have. And with that, there is also very little NPC variation. There's 4 different factions. You are included as one, so the Division, which are the JTF. There is the LMB. There is the Hoodlum guys. I don't know what their name is, and then there's the Rikers and the Cleaners. So I guess the Hoodlum guys would be the Rikers. That's how little I know about the story. But that's basically it, and there's about 3 to 4 different variations in the NPCs. So the cleaners, you have the grenade dude, which has little grenade packs on his side. There is the flamethrower dude. There are the snipers, and then there is the bosses, and they're like big armored dude. And that's it. You're gonna see thousands of those guys. Just those four. You're going to see thousands of them. There's no variation. They all use the same exact weapons. They all have the same exact AI. They're going to rush you with shotguns. If there's a shotgun dude, he's going to rush you no matter what. If there's a flamethrower dude, he's going to either have his AK out and shoot you with flame or incendiary bullets, or he's going to rush you with the flamethrower. And they have the same exact AI, everything. It's again, it's the same thing. You're doing it for 10 to 15 hours, and you're seeing the same thing that entire way, which is a gripe, in my opinion. Now, that is the entire leveling process. That's all I have issues with the leveling process. Let's get into the end game, and there's very little of it. At end game, you can do daily missions, which is basically, again, the dungeons, which is the story mode. You go back, you redo the story modes. It's going to have you do it in a specific way, so you have to do it either on hard or challenging, or you can sometimes do it on normal. I'm not sure, but at least hard and challenging. So you just, you go back, you do that, and you get a little reward. It's actually very, very little and kind of unrewarding in a sense, because you can farm what you get from that reward faster if you just didn't do the daily that day. And there's only 3 of those, so you go back and do 3 dungeons a day, and that's it for the daily missions. That's what you unlock at level 30. There's also challenging mode, which you unlock at level 30, which is basically the story mode / dungeons, yet they're level 32 because the max level in the game is 30. They're level 32 and everything is a yellow, and you can't respawn per checkpoint. So if you die, you're done. You don't get to respawn unless somebody revives you. And it's basically just heroic version of the dungeons if you want to compare it that way. They are pretty difficult once you hit 30, but just a couple hours of gearing up and you're already blowing through them like nothing. And that's it for PvE right now. You can do your daily, and you can do challenge modes. Challenge modes do reward a high-end piece, which is the max gear right now. However, it's a lower level. It's only level 30 instead of 31, which is basically gear level. So it's not going to be as good as a piece of gear that you get through other means, which is crafting. Crafting is sort of, everything you do in the game will give you crafting material. So crafting is kind of just basic. You're just going to have to keep recrafting gear. So that's a little bit of end game, but it's just basic. And then there's the Dark Zone. The Dark Zone is supposed to be the end game of the game. That's what they really try to push. However, the Dark Zone is basically just the same thing. It's PvE. There's 0 PvP in the game. This game is 99% PvE because if you go rogue in the Dark Zone, you will lose more than you will gain. You will never, ever, ever gain more than you will lose in the Dark Zone because that is how much they punish you. This is obviously a huge gripe with the game. This is what detracts people from the game. And this is the game's major flaw, is that the game, once you go into the Dark Zone, it is PvE. It is the same thing. It is cool that it tries to, do PvE with other players, and you have the chance, or you have the option to kill other players, but nobody's going to take that option because it's so unrewarding that if they did that, they're going to lose 2 hours of playtime in the process. So if you go rogue once, you're going to lose 2 hours of your day. There's no point. And if you even survive, you would have gained more by just killing mobs, because there's such little reward. So that is basically the cons. Obviously, I'm not going to go too much into detail because I've already gone on 10 minutes with it. Can go on for hours about the Dark Zone. Everybody can. It's pretty much what kills it for players. But let's move into the pros. So the things that I like about this game, it has very, very, very solid cover-to-cover combat. It is one of the most solid cover-to-cover combats that I have seen in a video game. Obviously, it's buggy, but I'm leaving that out because that can be fixed. Just the core cover-to-cover is very solid. You can look at a piece of cover, and you can hold down spacebar, and it will run you to that cover while also taking cover between all the covers on the way. If you take cover, you can move between the covers. If you get to the corner of a cover and it's just the corner of a wall, you can move around it without having to do anything. You don't have to leave the cover to, turn around the wall. It's very solid, it's very intuitive, and it makes for great combat. And the combat in the game, to me, is addicting. That is a pro that I have with it. A lot of people seem to forget that this is an RPG. This is an RPG. You have to expect that the mobs are going to take some bullets to kill. I know the setting kind of detracts people. People say I have to shoot the guy 100 times in the head before he dies. This is an RPG. You just have to come to agreement with that. It's not something you can critique in a game that is labeled an RPG, in my opinion, because that's the point of an RPG. You can't kill the mob fast if you have bad gear. Once you get better gear, you'll be killing it faster. That's just how an RPG is. The numbers mean everything. So to me, I really love the gunplay. I really love the gun control. It's not like Call of Duty. There is actual recoil for certain weapons. If you want an AK, you're going to have to pull that mouse down. There's recoil patterns. Most guns go up and to the right, so you have to, control that. I enjoy it. The guns feel good. Getting attachments on the gun make them feel even better. And I really enjoy it. Also, the game is very, very explorable. When I was leveling up, I leveled slowly because every time I went to a alleyway, I wanted to go and see what was in that alleyway. In the PvE of this game, not so much the Dark Zone. The Dark Zone is very unrewarding in that aspect, but in the PvE sections of this game, basically any building and any alleyway and anywhere you go, there's going to be something there for you. And everything gives you stuff. There's a lot to do in the game. All items have a use. If you go into an alleyway and you find a chest that gives, a green item, which is the worst quality, that helps you because that's crafting materials for the end game. If you go, on the roof of a building, there can be a piece of intel there, which gives you more information about the story, and it gives a little bit of XP. So it really encourages, go out, explore the entire world. And I did that for a very long time. I spent about 20 hours just playing the PvE, exploring, and it encouraged me to go explore everything. And then one of the last things that I would like to talk about as a con, in my opinion, again, this is my opinion, is the exponential scaling. So in this game, when you get an upgrade, it is a huge upgrade. So say you have, we're just going to throw numbers out there, say you have 40k DPS, and then you get a new weapon, and that weapon does 60k DPS. That is a huge upgrade, and that's how the game is. You get a magazine, it's going to give you like 30,000 DPS, and it's going to make your numbers shoot way up, and it feels very rewarding. I don't see it as a negative because, yes, the numbers are getting bloated, but it's doing that on purpose to encourage the grind. Because again, obviously the game is an RPG. You're going to have to grind it out a little bit. It tries to be an MMO. Obviously this is not an MMO, but it tries to be. So it has, a crafting system. It has, RNG numbers when you roll gear in the crafting system. You have drops and all that. So when you have systems like that where it's all RNG, you want to make sure that that upgrade, even if it's a bad roll, is going to feel rewarding, or else it's going to detract players. And I feel they did a good job on scaling the game up very high, so that way when you get something, you feel rewarded. And that's pretty much the opinions that I have. I would say that this game has kind of the Destiny/Guild Wars 2 effect. It has a Destiny effect where it's an RPG shooter, which there is pretty much no good RPG shooter out there right now. Besides, obviously, Destiny and The Division trying to be. So I feel like that's something you gotta think about, is that if you're looking for an RPG shooter, it's gonna be the same thing. Mobs are gonna take hundreds of bullets to kill. That's just how an RPG is. And then it also has a Guild Wars 2 effect, where the leveling up and the exploration of the world is amazing. They did a phenomenal job making you want to go and explore the world. However, once you get to the end game, there is pretty much, it's non-existent as of now. Obviously, they have a lot of DLC planned. Some of that is also free, so you got to keep that in mind. You can't just say day one DLC, because there is no day one DLC. The first three DLCs are actually for free for the next few months, and then it'll be the season pass. But as of right now, there's pretty much nothing to do in the end game. The end game grind has no purpose, because once you get, once you're done with the grind, you don't even want to go and kill players after you're done, because you're just going to lose all the progress that you did for the past, week or so, getting to that end goal. So I would say that is my opinion. I enjoy the game, however. I have spent about 60 to 65 hours, and the game's been out for 4 days. I'm getting like 3 hours of sleep a night, and then getting back into it as much as I can. So take of that as you will. My opinion is I would buy it again if I could, but I acknowledge the downsides. I acknowledge that I am playing the game at this point for no reason. I am doing it just for the sheer enjoyment of killing things, and those things being strictly PvE monsters, even in a zone labeled PvP. So that is my opinions on it. Again, I like it. I have spent way more time than the value of the game, so I would suggest it if you are looking for a good cooperative shooter. It's not an MMO, so don't expect a huge persistent world. You will barely see any other players, but you can play the game with your friends, which is what I would suggest. I would suggest this as a cooperative shooter RPG, and that would be about it, because that is about all that's going for it right now. Raids will be coming soon, hopefully, and that might change that, but for now, that is my opinion. So, if you enjoyed the video, give it a like, and I will see you guys next time.